everyone, and welcome to our recording today of our Environment Policy and Climate Action Plan briefing session. We actually had the session last week, and we agreed that we would do a recording of the session for people that weren't able to make it. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'll be taking you through our slides which describe our policy and our climate action plan, and at the end of this you can request copies of the slides as a PDF and also a copy of the template policy if you want to have a look at it and work something up for yourself. The presentation will probably take about half an hour to run through, and obviously you can kind of start and stop it and dip in and out as much as you would like. So let's move on to the first slide about the policy itself. So we're going to look a little bit about the context of why we've actually developed the policy and why the sustainability, leadership and climate action plans in education are needed. So the strategy was put in place by the DFE due to recognising that there is a lot more work to do in reducing our environmental footprint, particularly in the drive to achieve net zero across the UK by 2050. We also need to prepare children, young people and the education system to address environmental challenges by increasing knowledge and the understanding of environmental issues and improving the environments around early years and education settings. So to support this aspiration and these expectations on education providers, including early year settings, BAND have developed a policy template and climate action plan, and this session will take you through the template of both the policy and the climate action plan itself. Okay. So firstly, we're going to look at the policy element. Many groups will already have a policy or a statement about the environment or green issues in place, and this will be a great starting point for you to assess how to move policy to action for your climate action plan. If you don't have a policy in place or would like to revisit its contents, here is what we are suggesting it actually contains, and this is what our template policy contains if you access that to have a look at. So firstly, our template covers 5 aims, with the 5th being the CAP itself, the climate action plan itself. So the first aim is to minimise our negative environmental impact. The second aim is to create a culture of sustainability within and around our settings. The third aim is to support children to learn about environment issues. The fourth is to practice the principles of the 3 R's, which we'll cover in more detail on the next slide. And then finally, to put all of these 4 into a climate action plan. So that's the 5th aim, which is kind of an overarching, more holistic aim about what it is that you're actually going to do to put your policy into practice and develop an action plan for your setting. As I said, one of the aims is around the 3 R's. So the 3 R's that are included in our template policy are reduce, reuse and recycle. So thinking about the fact that sustainable practice is underpinned by how you reduce waste, reuse resources and recycle as much waste as it's possible for you. Of course, the 3 R's are not new initiatives, and when you think about what you as a setting already have in place regarding these elements of the environmental impact, you're already potentially on your way to more sustainable practices within your setting. So part of this is about reflecting on what it is that you're already doing within your setting, what you're already talking to your children about, your families about and your staff about in terms of reducing, reusing and recycling, and then building on those actions that you're already taking to move your sustainability planning and your sustainable actions forward for your setting to make them more impactful as you go through. So think about what it is you already do and then think about what you're going to be doing next. That's what we're concentrating on with the policy and with the action plan itself. So hopefully not too onerous and something that you can actually move and develop based on your existing practice. Okay, so moving on to thinking about the curriculum within your setting. So another element of the policy and the action plan implementation is how you are including environmental and sustainability actions into your curriculum. Again, this is something that you have probably been doing for a while, but the revisiting of your policy, curriculum and your action plan together will enable you to potentially refocus these strands and clarify how you are meeting the expectations of the DFE strategy itself. Think about what you are doing to provide opportunity for developing children's understanding and appreciation of the environment, such as experiencing different natural materials, things like wood, stone, sand, and recycled materials. How are you helping them connect with natural environments through outdoor play, such as forest school sessions, gardening, or maybe some nature walks? Are you enabling children to see recycling in action and be actively involved? So are they encouraged to recycle, I don't know, milk cartons after they've had a carton of milk, or understand where their food waste goes if they have food left on their plates at the end of snack or meal times? Are you showing them what happens to those things and why it is that you're looking at separating resources out and recycling them in different ways? So that they have a more fuller understanding of the reasons behind you doing those things. Maybe thinking about how you're growing and nurturing plants, that could be indoors or outdoors, maybe fruits and vegetables, so that they learn more about the food cycle. And then looking at how they can explore environmental issues through conversations, play and problem solving. So this may be thinking about what you can adapt in your curriculum to link to environmental issues. And again, there are some things that you might be already doing. So when you're thinking about your science activities, are there some of those that you could link to environmental issues? Maybe talking about weather patterns or rainfall, or the changes that we're seeing in our world, talking about, rubbish collection and when that happens and how we keep our streets clean, and how it's important when we do that to think about what we're doing with rubbish and where that ends up so it doesn't go into landfill. And how can you embed this within your routines when you're planning your curriculum? So thinking about, is this a question that you ask in your planning meetings when you're looking at your curriculum at different points through the year, or maybe over the summer when you're thinking about your September start? Is the environment and sustainability issues featuring as part of your planning? So that's kind of an overall kind of overarching thoughts on the curriculum themselves, but those are the kind of things that we're trying to encourage you to develop through your policy and through your climate action plan. So we're now going to be moving on to the climate action plan, or CAP, part of the policy. It's recommended that this part of the policy is co-constructed with people that are involved in your setting. So when you have your policy in place and you are working on the CAP, who are these people? So you need to be thinking about who your stakeholders are. You also need to be thinking about who's going to be allocated the role of your sustainability lead. There needs to be a member of your team, someone who can drive the plan and implement the policy, making sure that you as a setting are moving your plans forward and implementing your actions. So this might be a team leader, somebody on your management or leadership team, but like I say, it needs to be somebody who can impact on the changes needed and follow through on the monitoring of the plan once it's in place. So thinking about the people that you need to involve, your stakeholders, it's a word that's used to describe anybody who has an interest in your setting. So it could be your team members, so other staff members, people that come into your setting, even your cleaners, your chefs or your cooks, your admin staff, as well as your early years practitioners who actually interact with the children themselves. It could be your parents and carers, your children who actually attend the setting. How are you involving them in the climate action plan, the CAP development, and other members of your communities? Are you going outside of your setting to talk to other community settings or other community members about what they're doing and how they can support you in the development of your CAP as well? So it might well be that you're on a school site and you want to talk to your school, or on a church site and you want to talk to your church about what they're doing around sustainability issues, around what they're doing about making sure that their buildings are as ecologically friendly as they could possibly be. So thinking about how you're reaching out to your community as well as to the stakeholders that come into your setting on a daily basis. So within the CAP itself, there are 4 focus areas for the from the DFE strategy. So you need to think about your vision for these 4 focus areas and add them to your plan. And there are 4 information sheets explaining what the 4 areas are. So you can check out the information sheets as linked under each of the 4 areas if you are unsure of what these headings actually mean. They're quite simple information sheets. They've been developed by an organisation called Climate Ambassadors, and I'll show you an example of one of them on the next page. But the 4 headings that you're looking at are decarbonisation, adaptation and resilience, biodiversity, and education and green skills. So if we have a look at the beginning of the one for the decarbonisation information sheet, as I said, it's been developed by Climate Ambassadors, and there's a link to them and their website further on in the presentation on one of our final slides. So you can click into that organisation's website and you can have a look at all the different resources they've got available. So thinking about decarbonisation, it explains what it is. So it's actually about lowering our carbon footprint. That's what decarbonisation means. So again, it's probably something that you have already thought about in your setting, or thought about as kind of individual team members, and talking to children about what net zero might mean to them and how you're moving towards reducing your carbon footprint as a setting. So it's about actually reflecting on those thoughts and then kind of widening the scope of that maybe. And the information sheets that have been developed give you some ideas about the kind of things that you might want to think about. Okay. So the first start for the plan, your starting point, it suggests that you identify any steps you already have made towards sustainable practice. So think about what you already have in place. So as I mentioned previously when we were looking at the policy and the 3 R's of reduce, reuse and recycle, what are your existing activities around those things? What is it that you've already got built into your curriculum? And it can be really simple things that you've already done. You don't need to overcomplicate things. It's thinking about where your starting points were and what you've moved to. So maybe you've started some forest school sessions. Are you recycling more food waste, or are you committed to reducing food waste with better menu planning, or limiting the amount of snack that you have available out ready for when children come into their snack areas for the snack time, and actually cutting things up or offering things as they come and choose them, rather than having a huge platter of fruit available that doesn't get eaten and then needs to be thrown away because it's already been peeled and cut up. So think about how you're doing those sorts of things. Are you buying local resources rather than maybe going out to Amazon all the time and expecting them to be delivered in 24 hours through Prime? Are you planning and going out and buying local resources through local provision, so you're lowering your carbon footprint in that way? Are you encouraging staff and families to walk or cycle to your setting? So all of these things are already contributing to your sustainability and your ecological planning around your setting. So once you have this info, it's much easier to think about how you can improve or further develop sustainability and your climate action practice. So within the climate action plan template that we've pulled together, we've actually put a table in to help you pull all of those existing actions together. All of your existing activities can go on one side where the action is, and then you think about the benefits or the impact of those actions that you've already got in place. And then you can think about, well, what could we do next? What is it even better if we do? So if your action is you've switched to only using recycled toilet paper in your toilets and recycled paper for printing resources, so that's the action that you've already taken. The consequence, the benefit or the impact of that action was that you've contributed to less loss of forest environments nationally or internationally, because trees are being chopped down for paper because you're using recycled paper. And it might well be even better if we widen that out. So is there any other are there any other paper-based resources in the setting that we're already using that we can widen to it being ensuring that those are recycled? So it might not be just recycled paper in your office for printing, it might well be that you're using recycled paper for doing arts and crafts and drawing within the setting, or that you only use recycled kitchen towels in your snack area or in your kitchen. So is there something that you could do that's even better? Could you widen that? And if you think, oh yeah, there is another step we could take, then that's something that you can build into your climate action plan. So that can go into your plan, and then you're thinking about what you're doing next. And then once that's in your plan, you can think about how you're going to implement that and how you're going to monitor and evaluate the success of that. And then again, reflect on whether or not you can do even more. So it's kind of like your plan, do, review cycle once it's in your plan. So once you've thought about what you already have in place, that will lead you into the 4 areas of the actual plan itself. And these are based on the 4 focus areas that we went through earlier. So decarbonisation, adaptation and resilience, biodiversity, and education and green skills. So the plan has some overarching kind of thoughts. It asks you to think about your vision for those 4 areas, and as I mentioned earlier, once you've got those visions in place, it's worth developing that vision with maybe your stakeholders, part of your community. So it could be your staff, your children, your parents and carers, or all of them. And you've got your vision for those 4 areas, and then you actually build that into your policy. So you copy those visions up into your policy so you can share that information with your stakeholders and say, these are our visions for the 4 focus areas of the climate action strategy. This is what we're going to be doing in our setting, and we have a climate action plan that underpins that vision and explains how we're going to achieve that, which we have a sustainability lead for, and they're the person that's going to be monitoring our progress towards those aspirations, towards those actions, and looking at monitoring of the impact of those actions as well. So it all kind of ties back together in a very cyclical way. And again, this is thinking about what you already have in practice, what you already are doing, and how you can move that forward. So we're not expecting you to change your practice completely overnight around decarbonisation, but thinking about what is it you would like to achieve, where would you like to be as a setting. Maybe you want to put a heat pump in rather than be reliant on gas central heating within your setting. So it might well be that you think one of your actions is to investigate how much that would cost. Is there a grant available? Could we do that within our setting? Or could we talk to our landlord to see whether or not they would be interested in putting a heat pump in rather than being reliant on gas central heating anymore? So it's those sorts of things. It could be a large aspiration. We want to put solar panels on our roof. So part of the action plan could be investigate the finance and the impact on the running of the setting if we had solar panels fitted. And the benefit and the impact could be money saving, but it also could be to reduce your carbon footprint because you're not using those fossil fuels to run electricity anymore, because it might well be you've got solar power in place or you've got a heat pump in place. So it can be big plans, but it can also be little things. So one of the examples that we've put in this one is maybe looking to decrease the use of single-use plastics in your kitchen. And you can do that simply by using reusable tubs and things like Tupperware with lids, or you could maybe do it by using more sustainable resources such as beeswax wraps or parchment paper sheets. So and so that could be a very small aim rather than the larger, we want solar panels as well, or it could well be that you're running both of them concurrently and you're thinking small steps now, larger steps in future. So within each area of the climate action plan, there are also some prompt questions to help you think about the areas that you might want to be moving your actions forward on. So things that you can ask yourself to reflect on your practice. Is this something that we can change? Are we involving the right people? Are we asking the right questions about our sustainability practice in terms of environmental issues? And I would suggest that maybe it might be easier to break those down over maybe 3 or 4 terms. So you're looking at one area a term to try and develop your action plan and move them forward. So you have to have an action plan in place for the educational year 25-26, but there's no reason to say that you can't develop your policy and have a basic action plan in place and then look at reviewing that throughout this educational year and having something fully in place place for next September, ready to go for next year. So thinking about what you need to do next to start your sustainability journey, we're just going to recap through some of the actions that I've already talked about in this session. So first and foremost, you need to allocate a sustainability lead for your setting. You need to identify what you feel you have done already and share your successes with children and parents and carers. So thinking about how you're communicating what you're already doing and your successes. Are you doing that through discussions and circle time with children in your setting? Are you maybe releasing newsletters with articles to your parents and carers, or putting up information posters about green issues and how you're trying to move towards more sustainable practice, so that they're all aware as your stakeholders of what you're trying to do, and thinking about how you're sharing that information with your staff as well. You need to start to write and adopt your policy or adapt your existing one to include a climate action plan. So remember, we have a template policy available that you can ask to see, and you can compare your existing policy to that. Feel free to integrate ours into yours, or think yours is much better, but we would like the action plan on the end of it to be integrated into our policy. So use whatever elements of our policy and our CAP that you think will be useful to you. Begin developing a climate action plan. So thinking about the plan itself, the 4 areas of focus, what your visions are for those 4 areas, and then ask yourself those questions that are in the prompt boxes on the CAP, and then start actually capturing the actions that you want to achieve, the aspirations you have for those areas. Talk to your whole team about their ideas to reduce, reuse and recycle across the setting, and feed those into your CAP as well. And then think about how to build climate action into your curriculum and activity planning. So it might well be that some of your aspirations within your CAP can be put into action through your curriculum planning and the activities that you're carrying out with your children and young people whilst they're at your setting. So thinking about, is it falling under certain curriculum headings, or can we adapt an activity that we've already got in place to make it more environmental or climate action focused, as well as being an existing activity that we're already doing for other reasons? So can you kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Okay, so one of our final slides is about the further support and guidance that you can have. So there are a number of organisations that have been tasked with setting up resources, guidance notes and support for educational providers, including early years settings, to explain what they need to achieve and to support them to do that. So I'll just run through these 4 organisations that have been tasked with that support and give you a quick overview of each one. So first up, we have the National Education Nature Park programme, and this empowers children and young people to make a positive difference to both their own and nature's future. So it's a free programme to provide all educators with the resources, support and guidance to embed climate and nature into learning in a way that suits your setting and your learners. So you can go on there and download loads of resources, have a noodle around, think about how they can support you with potentially your curriculum planning or engaging children and young people into the plans that you have. And then next up, we have sustainability support for education. So you can find recommended actions for your setting to become more sustainable, or to shape your climate action plan, or to help you complete the action. They quality assure the resources that are available that you can use for support, so you know you're getting something that's going to be useful and valuable to you when you go onto their website and find the resources that are available. And there's a range of resources for every stage of your journey towards sustainability. So it might well be that you're feeling, oh my goodness me, we are right at the beginning of this, so I'm feeling quite overwhelmed. This is quite a big mountain to climb, don't really know where to start. This would be a really good place to kind of have a look at our policy, our CAP, look at the resources that they've got available and try and bring those together so you've got those kind of starting points, that building block. Or it might well be that you're feeling really confident that you're well on your way to your journey towards sustainability, and actually thinking about kind of bigger plans or other things that you could do, and you just want some more inspiration on on your next steps, because you're kind of thinking, well, I think we've pretty much done everything that we want to do and everything we can do currently, and it might well be that this website can give you a list of resources or sources of inspiration for your next steps to move it further on, even though you're already well on your way towards your journey of sustainability. The third one is climate ambassadors, and I've mentioned those before. They have the overview documents for the 4 focus areas of the CAP, and they also match volunteer climate experts with education settings to develop the climate action plans in practice. So that's with nursery schools and colleges, and you can sign up to receive that support on their website. You can have a look at case studies that they've got around the support that have already been given and the impact and the difference that that's made to different types of settings and organisations in the education sector. And then, of course, there are those information sheets on the 4 areas of the strategy, so covering decarbonisation, adaptation and resilience, biodiversity, and education and green skills. And then the final one is called Let's Go Zero. And this is help to green education building. So thinking about how to support organisations to make their buildings, their settings more green, and with the ambitious target of being net zero for education by 2030. So this is 20 years earlier than the national target of being net zero by 2050. So it is a very ambitious target for education. But again, if you're thinking about the building that you're working out of, whether you own it or whether you rent it from somebody else, and that organisation is thinking about how they can become more green and change things about the building, understand the energy assessment of the building better, then net zero by 2030 might be the place to start, because they'll have loads of information about how to become more green in your buildings and your settings. So those are the 4 kind of support organisations that are available to education. Of course, there's a wealth of other information and resources available on the internet, but if you've not really had a look into this, we know that these are the ones that are recommended and endorsed by the DFE. So they're a really, really positive place to start, and everything from them is free at the point of access that I found so far. So they should be a really good starting point wherever you are on that journey for you. And then finally, at our session that we did, we had a few questions. So I'm just going to repeat some of those questions and the answers that we gave to those questions. So the first one was, is there any funding attached to the strategy? So unfortunately, at our level, there's not any specifically attached. There are grants at larger organisation level and national level, but nothing kind of available to settings individually. But to try and mitigate this, we've had our fundraiser for BAND on the case, and she's researching kind of green and sustainable funding pots that you can look at accessing some funding to support your CAPs. And we're going to be featuring those in our next newsletter. So those will be available for you to look at. We're also planning to pull together some ideas about sustainable action under the 4 headings to give you some ideas to put into practice as well in your setting, or help you to collate the actions that you're already taking for your CAP. So it might well be that we put some ideas in there and oh yeah, of course we already do that, and so we can add that to our CAP and then think about, is there a way that we can push that forward? Is there a way that we can develop that for further benefit or further impact? We're also hoping to make kind of sustainable and green issues a regular feature in the newsletter. So more ideas, maybe some case studies of settings that are already doing some things that are successful for them and that have made an impact on their sustainability and their kind of climate action plans. Both big and small actions that those settings are taking, so that we can actually learn from our peers and learn from each other around what we can do. So the next question was, how will this be inspected by the DFE? So again, we're not really sure about how these expectations will be monitored. So we know that you have to have this, the plan and the strategy in place during this year 25-26, but we're not sure how they're going to be checking that that's happening. So we've emailed the DFE to ask for clarification on this for earlier settings, and we'll let you know through a newsletter article when we have the answer back from them. So it'll probably be our winter issue of the newsletters that we can hopefully answer that one. So another question was around whether or not we as an organisation were planning to support with recycling schemes for harder to recycle resources such as pens or empty glue sticks. So we currently have no plans to do this, but we are reaching out to Scrap Store to see if they have any thoughts on how we can support groups to recycle more of their hard to dispose of waste, rather than you all trying to get to the tip with your hard plastics all individually. So again, we'll report back on that once we've had those conversations and once we've maybe thought about making some links with different areas of Bristol and different industries to see whether or not there is something that we can do to help coordinate those actions. And another question was, how does this link to what we are already expected to do? Because of course we understand that this is something you have to add into your existing plans, your existing capacity, and find the time to think about climate action and sustainability plans. So we had a bit of a conversation about this, and we were saying that it's maybe worth thinking about linking it back to your existing curriculum heading of awareness of the world, for instance. Have you got any plans under that in existence that you can adapt to be more climate action focused or more environmentally issue focused for when you're putting those plans in place with the children? Is there a tweak? So rather than starting something new again, is there something that you can adapt and change that's already in place to, again, make it less onerous? And maybe if you're doing the Bristol Standard, you can link it back to a Bristol Standard target. So again, is there a bit of a tweak that you can make to your Bristol Standard targets so it covers climate action and sustainability issues alongside what you were already doing for Bristol Standard? So that's more the message that we want to get across. This isn't hopefully some new, big, huge thing that you have to take on. It's about recognising where you are, recognising what you need to do, having somebody in place that's going to support your setting to move those things forward, and thinking about what it is that you're already doing that you can piggyback onto and adapt to meet the needs of the climate action plan and the strategy around that. So those were the questions that came up. As we get more questions, because I'm sure that more and more groups, as they develop their policy and develop their caps, there will be more questions for us. So as we get those extra questions, again, we'll try and put those out through our social media or through our newsletter so that people understand that there's still a dialogue happening around that, and we're still trying to think about how we can best support you with those two things. And then finally, like I said at the beginning, these slides and all the links are available as a PDF. So if you can access them, you can access them for your team and also for your planning. And then, of course, we've got the template policy and climate action plan available. So if you want either of those or both of those things, you can email Michelle here at BAND. So that's michelle@bandltd.org.uk, and she'll send those out to you. And I just wanted to do a plug for another session that we've got coming up on the 26th of November, which is looking at the critical incident template policy and management plan that we've developed. So this was in response to settings wanting to be able to respond to critical incidents when they happen. Originally, it was around looking at safeguarding, critical incidents around safeguarding if you had a big incident happen within your setting, how you respond to that and keep everybody safe whilst investigations are ongoing, or you're supporting children and families and your staff through that. And it's actually expanded into what critical incidents are and what different critical incidents you might actually come across within your setting, and helping you to plan for those. So it's your contingency planning if those happen, what you could do and how you could do it as a setting. So by all means, come along. I think the booking for that has already gone out. But again, if you haven't seen the booking or you want to email in to book on, you can just email Michelle again and she can book you onto the session directly. So thank you for your time. I hope it's been useful, and any questions that you have, you can come back to us at admin@bandltd.org.uk. You can email Michelle, you can email me, Jenny@bandltd.org.uk, or you can contact your childcare advisor directly. So yeah, any questions or queries at all, do come back to us and we'll try and answer those as best we can. But thank you for your time. Thanks.